Hey, welcome to week 5 of Mission Critical. I appreciate you hanging with this study all these weeks, and I pray that it has been a rewarding experience for you as you learn more about our predecessors in the faith and as it talks about in the Bible, where we're standing on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets. And so they went before us. They modeled for us what it looks like to live out the teachings of Jesus. And that is especially true in this story that we're looking at today. Jesus mentioned in the Gospels, if anyone wants to be my disciple, what do they have to do? Remember that? If anyone wants to be my disciple, they must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. And that just means that when we sign on the dotted line to become a disciple of Jesus, at that moment, we have already chosen to give up our lives. We have given our lives over to Him. And so it's not like if at some point when our physical body is killed, we lose our lives. No. That the losing of our lives happens the moment of the decision to become a disciple of Christ. And so the story that we're looking at today, Stephanos in Greek means crown in Greek. And, when you competed in the Olympics, you weren't given money. In fact, you weren't given anything other than they would go and they would get a branch and they would fasten it together into a little crown. And that is a Stephanos. It is a crown of acknowledgement. It was also a word used to talk about royalty. It was also used to talk about a gift. And this guy, Stephanos in Greek, is an incredible person. Stephen is someone that in Acts chapter 6, he was chosen by the apostles to handle the distribution of food, but that also didn't mean that he wasn't going to share the gospel. And so, as we learned on Sunday, Stephen gets wrapped up with some pretty bad guys. And what we find out is that it was those guys that pushed the crowd to take Stephen before the very people that crucified Jesus. And what we definitely find out is that crowd, the synagogue of the freedmen, it was out of that group where the Apostle Paul came. And so you wonder how in the world there could be someone who is so fanatical and is going and persecuting the church and killing people. And then that's the person that gets converted. It was because that's what those people were. They were fanatical Jews. And it turns out that the very first martyr of the Christian faith is Stephen. So it truly is I have to turn my phone off here. It truly is an example of someone that wears the crown, that receives the crown of life. Now, one of the things I want you to talk about with this passage is the way that this passage answers the age-old question, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? And on Sunday, we talked about how our suffering extends the kingdom. That when we suffer, we're not asking why, we're asking who. Right? Let me say that again. When we suffer, when we're going through hard times, the question to ask is not why am I going through this, but who am I affecting with the gospel? So with your suffering right now, that's a question I want you to ask yourself. And among the people that are in your group, in the last 6 months when you've gone through difficult times, who are the people that God is using that difficult situation to impact for the kingdom? We also suffer because it shapes us, sort of like I remember when I was a kid in my backyard, I grabbed a cocoon, right? And I wanted to see what was inside of it, opened it up, and it was what was to become a butterfly that never happened because it never had the struggle of going out of the cocoon to basically push the blood through the wings in order to make it be able to fly. So the cocoon itself, though difficult, would have helped the fly to become something. And our struggles are like that. And finally, we talked about there are just some reasons we don't know why. But we see in the Stephen story that in the middle of his suffering, you see this image of Jesus standing up and looking. It always talks about how the Son of Man is seated at the right hand of God. But in the Stephen story and in our stories of suffering, Jesus is always doing this. And he's always, sorry, my ugly beard there. He's always, coming and he's looking. And so I really want you to dig into the material this week. And I want you to be very transparent about what you're going through and how God possibly could be using that for good. Romans 8:28. I'm convinced, that God uses everything for our good. So how? Share that with your team, and I hope you have a great study. See ya.